Yes, and for anyone who parents or teachers who are his advisors wish to look at the conference or join it, you can search Hope to the Future, I guess, to the YouTube. Or I will be sharing the link directly to the YouTube link on the chat. And yeah, this is all. Yes, welcome all again. We're going live now, and I hope the speakers from the past few weeks will be joining us today as well. And I would like to begin the conference as a last part of the whole 2020 training program on the United Nations and SDGs. Welcome all again. We're going live now, and I hope the speakers from the past few weeks will be joining us today as well. And I would like to begin. Okay, so welcome all, ladies and gentlemen. It's an honor to join you today. I would like to briefly introduce myself. My name is Hannah, and I'm the Program Associate of Hope to the Future Association, the Civil Society Representative Associate with the UN Department of Global Communications. Let us begin our last journey for the 2022 Volunteer Training Program on UN SDGs and the 2020 SDG Conference. Despite the fact that we're still dealing with the threat of a COVID-19 pandemic, the fact that we're here today to celebrate graduation is a great blessing to us. Before moving directly to the conference, let's watch a very short 1-minute video of the youth plenary released by the United Nations in 2020.
My generation represents promise, not peril.
All young people have the right to participate in the conduct of public affairs and thus are entitled to rights and freedoms.
With only 10 years left to achieve the Sustainable Development Goals, your vision and commitment are paramount to creating a more sustainable and inclusive world.
We must have a post-COVID recovery that propels us to greener economies and onto a sustainable path.
Human rights and human dignity should be at the center of everything we do.
I think there's a little bit problem with connection, so just
Okay, I'm here again. I think I just like peeked out of the room and to resume. So sorry, I was kicked out of the room. And I'm now here, would like to have a short declaration on youth. So everyone, please unmute yourself now. And then I would like everyone to join the declaration and would follow after me. Youth declaration. Let's read it together. We, the youth of the world,
The youth of the world
recognizes that our go ahead.
Recognizes that our temporary world is teeming with multiple and tumultuous crises. With these crises unfolding globally, we are to survive
and thrive in the planetary peace
and righteous
equality.
We must first
Transform as
partners and collaboration
every
every
step.
step of the way.
Yes, thank you so much. So now I would like to introduce the delegates to the today's conference. And before we move down to the delegate information, to begin with, youth faces enormous challenges, amongst others, those related to inequality, protected conflict, displacement, violence and human rights, shrinking civic space, gender equality, and climate change. So for the past weeks, we have set an agenda and did basic research on current worldwide circumstances. And finally, today, we would like to tackle one agenda promoting sustainable development, starting from each representative's opening speech. So the delegates for today's conference, we have representatives from 5 different countries: Italy, Mexico, South Korea, USA, and Vietnam. All introduced delegates will give a speech based on their own national strategies and policy procedures, have short and brief negotiations or rebuttals in a question and answer format for the moderated caucus time. And then we're coming up with one common declaration. After the conference ends, we will move to the SDG simulation designed based on the agenda, taking 15 minutes on its discussion and move to the closing. let me welcome the moderator, Dennis, to the stage.
Welcome everybody. This is Dennis, and I'm a moderator of SDGs conference. Before we start SDGs conference, we shall begin with the roll call. When your delegation is named, please raise placard and state whether you are present or present and voting. Guys, are you ready with your placards? And Italy,
Present and voting.
and Mexico. Yes. Present. And United States of America.
Present and voting.
And South Korea. Could you please turn on your mic?
Present and voting.
Yes. And the last, Vietnam.
Present and voting.
Yes, at this time. Thank you all delegates. After the roll call, you can see that there are 9 delegates of 5 countries present. We have 3 topics on SDGs conference: promotion of sustained economic growth and sustainable development, and maintenance of international peace and security. And the last one is development of Africa. As we voted prior, the agenda has been set to promotion of sustained economic growth and sustainable development. We will now proceed with opening speeches. Delegates will have a speaking time of 2 minutes each for your speeches. Start with Delegate of Italy.
Thank you, Chair. And this delegate will start the speech if there's not anything else to say. Okay, so can the delegate start?
Yes, yes.
Thank you. One voice, delegates, can ripple to millions. Greetings, delegates. This is the delegate of Italy, greatly honored to present here a humble but genuine speech. Italy has been constantly putting effort towards the Sustainable Development Goals. Overviewing various fields of issues, it has also started to develop new policies in order to comply with the 2030 Agenda and is willing to set specific goals as an ongoing plan. However, the current developments are certainly not to be called sustainable, as climate change is worsening, people are denied access to basic needs, and 698 million people around the world are living in extreme poverty, which raised to a tremendous 9% of the entire globe. Therefore, delegates, Italy would like to remind the importance of cooperation. Countries, regardless of their governmental types or financial status, should take part and mutually receive support if necessary. Italy is also looking forward to interacting with all of the other delegates present. Thank you, delegates, for your time. Let's increase our shouts for a change, one voice after another.
Okay, thank you, delegates. At this time, the chair recognizes Lucas, delegate of Mexico, to speak for the period of 2 minutes.
Greetings. I'm the delegate from Mexico, and throughout the years, Mexico has been trying to comply itself for the 2030 agenda, as well as to develop its plans to fit. But as the global pandemic and the climate change has affected many peoples, we are trying to comply to its needs and also focus on how to develop sustainability and still the economic to growth despite of the global pandemic. affecting everybody. So it's very short because I have few time to work on it, but thank you.
Yes, thank you. And at this time, we recognize the delegate of the United States of America to speak for the period of 2 minutes.
Mai, it's your turn.
Oh, okay. Sorry. Greetings, ladies and gentlemen. This is the United States of America. The US believes that both climate change and economic growth are extremely important topics to discuss. However, we believe the one that should be prioritized is economic growth. Without money, you won't be able to deal with the other global problems that coexist in the world, such as war, hunger, and poverty. Economic growth is critical if you want a safe and developed world. Fixing climate change is only a short-term problem that won't be as important once it's solved, whereas economic growth is a long-term issue that impacts a lot of people, therefore it should be prioritized. Furthermore, even if we would say climate change is more important, many countries wouldn't be able to solve it yet without economic growth because they cannot afford the expenses that are required to carry out the solutions. So what does the US want to accomplish from this conference? We want to, along with other nations, come up with sustainable, eco-friendly ways to boost economic growth. We believe that even if we don't support prioritizing climate change, this does not mean that we don't care about the environment at all. We just believe that economic growth is a more important problem in today's world. We hope that delegates from other countries can help us to achieve this in today's conference. Thank you.
Yes, thank you, delegates. And at this time, the chair recognizes the delegate of South Korea to speak for the period of 2 minutes.
Greetings, delegates. Today's topic is South Korea's economic growth and development and climate-friendly action. As defined by the UN, climate change is a term to describe the long-term changes in temperatures and weather patterns. This warning situation results in countless detrimental effects. The Republic of Korea believes that action towards climate change calls for global responses. South Korea has remarked upon the rapid transformation of the country from one of the poorest nations to among the most developed powerhouses on Earth. In research from the World Bank Group in 2013, these impressive developments raised South Koreans' living standards. Their heavy impacts delay the intensity on the environment, the country being the world's 8th largest emitter of CO2 or carbon dioxide, the highest indicators among OECD countries. As of 2008, President Lee Myung-bak put forward the nation's philosophy of low-carbon green growth, which highlighted the governance and environmental concerns that can be a driving force for economic development. The Republic of Korea advocates for UN policy on Greenpeace UK 2022. Number 1, proclaim the significance of decent educational programs in increasing public awareness towards climate change and its implications on Earth. Number 2, lay pressure on the government and business to invest in renewable, environmentally friendly energy, including solar, wind, wave, tidal, and geothermal power. Number 3, orientalize the manufacturing processes towards providing more plastic-free products. And number 4, urgent the international consensus on the cooperation to reserve natural resources. Thank you.
Yes, thank you, delegate. And at this time, the chair recognizes delegate of Vietnam to speak for the period of 2 minutes.
Good morning, Honorable Chair and fellow delegates. This is the delegate of Vietnam offering you a warm welcome to today's discussion. Today, it has become more evident than ever to Vietnam that sustainability has caught the eye of many nations across the globe. Sustainable development has now become our collective ambition, but Vietnam would like to acknowledge aspects of this for LEDCs in our society specifically. Vietnam, as a promising candidate for a carbon neutral country, must first underline the fact that becoming carbon neutral is difficult or requires a lot of external supports for countries that have yet to fully industrialize. Compared to other MEDCs that are well on their way to producing green energy, it is difficult to force the same standards on less developed countries. So therefore, Vietnam proposes that despite the importance of sustainability, our society should work towards creating step-by-step goals and moving forward as a whole and extending their support to other countries instead of imposing standards for the time being. And regarding this, hopes for a pragmatic solution in today's discussion.
Thank you, delegates. And now we are gonna start with first speakers list. Let's start with Italy, Mexico, United States of America, South Korea, and Vietnam. At this time, start with Italy. Prepare for your speech for the period of 7 minutes and start when you're ready.
If there is no further delay, the delegation of Italy would like to start. So thank you. Delegates, Italy is willing to cooperate with other countries and mutually provide and receive support, especially when it comes to sustainable growth. Although the world economy is growing rapidly than ever, its sustainability is not yet ensured. As aforementioned, issues regarding climate change are uprising, threatening floral, faunal, and even human society and safety. Not only with environmental problems, but many of the people around the world cannot fulfill their basic needs. In Italy's case, Italy's people are living in a safe environment and its financial situation is stable and steady. Italy has also received 42.7 billion euros from the European Union for its own sustainability management and also has its own funds as a developed country to support other countries if necessary. Italy understands that some countries would rather like to focus on their own economic growth than working for sustainable development. However, Italy would like to point out that would only bring short-term benefits and unsustainable growth will eventually harm the entire globe, including the countries that instigated such unsustainable economic development in the first place. Therefore, Italy would like to emphasize that sustainable development is still possible if developing countries receive technical, financial, and human resources from developed nations. Italy is also willing to provide such countries with such resources if needed. Additionally, Italy also calls for other developed nations to consider providing Italy with governmental frameworks or technical assistance in discarding waste, because it is one of the few things Italy is also having a hard time on. Overall, Italy would like to cooperate with other countries to create a multilateral framework that ensures a step-by-step progress so that every country can comply. In order to achieve it, Italy is also willing to organize and participate in annual or biannual meetings to share progress and give and receive feedback with each other. Thank you, and this delegation would like to yield the remaining time to the other delegation of Italy.
Italy is now having a goal to focus on the sustainable development. Italy is one of the most developed countries who has been focusing on economic development. But Italy knows that country will not develop sustainably if the country only focuses on the rapid growth. Even the rapid growth and the economy could seem good at first, that is only on short-term effects. The short-term development will negatively affect the country in the future because rapid growth cannot be sustainable. Therefore, Italy will be focusing on the sustainable growth in the countries. For Italy's and the world's sustainable growth, Italy would like to both provide and get support from other countries. And Italy would like to cooperate with other countries too for the goal of sustainable development. Thank you for listening to this.
Yes, thank you, delegates. And at this time, the chair recognizes Delegate of Mexico to speak for the period of 7 minutes. Okay, and Delegate of Mexico have a little problem of so we will move on to the Delegate of United States of America.
Okay, may I begin? It is an obvious fact that various issues threaten our world today. That is why the 17 SDG goals, all equal in importance, have to be achieved. Accordingly, the United States of America, as one of the most influential countries in the world, has spent thousands of dollars and invested in efforts to promote sustainability across the globe. Indeed, we understand the importance of the environment as a topic that is dealt with by many SDGs. However, what we emphasize is that all 17 issues should be dealt in order for the preservation of a green, safe planet. And as a method to balance these goals, we propose the economy as the solution. First of all, the United States still requires reform, and reform requires money. Surprisingly, modern America is a country that has a debt of $31 trillion, which is the highest in its history and among the world. Without any action being taken, experts predict that the sovereign debt of America will continue to increase. Domestically, America is also full of social issues that need to be attended to. Unemployment rates are up to 3.7%, while 21% of adults nationwide are illiterate, and so much more. One specific example can be public health services of the United States. With the high and burdensome fee, 1 out of 6 people in the US did not apply for health insurance. However, these problems can be dealt with the help of the economy. However, also, this is not enough. The America will still have to expand the economy to pursue sustainability domestically. On top of that, American economy is necessary in keeping peace around the world. The UN peacekeepers are one of the best forces in the world, and they are specially chosen and picked in order to sustain peace in conflicted areas. Since 1948, they've been on several missions around the world trying to mitigate violence and prevent them from escalating into warfare. As of now, the approved total budget for peacekeeping operations is 6.38 billion US dollars, and the US contributes around 30% of this budget, amounting to nearly $1.8 billion. This means we care a lot about the UN, its operations, its mission to promote peace around the world, to protect citizens, and we believe that it is extremely important that the US, as one of the most powerful countries in the world, contribute our part in military and also the economy to promote peace and global sustainability. Since the war between Ukraine and Russia started, the US has been a great supporter of the Ukraine. We have sent over $54 billion, and the US Air Force have developed weapons made specifically for the needs of the Ukrainian army: drones, ammunition, hot misers, and vehicles. This means that we care enough about peace and justice to be established, not just in our country, but also continuously invest in foreign countries in order to form allies, support them, and help them maintain peace. Only then can our world collaborate and work together hand in hand, and only then global peace can be achieved. On top of that, as mentioned above, investing in the economy does not mean harming or neglecting the environment. Rather, the economy is necessary or at least can be helpful for the environment. For example, reducing the amount of fossil fuels and carbon emissions are necessary in dealing with climate change. However, it is only possible when an alternative energy source can replace such consumable sources of power. Every year, the United States spends around 50 billion US dollars in order to promote, develop, and implement renewable energy in our lives. As shown, the economy can be utilized as a powerful weapon in attending to the current climate crisis. Even this year, the Environmental Protection Agency, aka the EPA, received around $40 billion on the first budget distribution of the America Congress. As more efforts and investments are being made nationally, the environment will also be able to benefit from this positive, sustainable economic growth. In a nutshell, war, climate change, poverty, and equality, all of the 17 goals of the SDG have to be achieved urgently, and there is no priority in achieving these goals. However, we admit that we need to find a balance and equal distribution of effort, money, and cooperation among these goals and also the nations. As a method and tool to achieve this, we, The United States of America propose economic growth of not only our country, but all countries around the world to help achieve sustainability around the world. Thank you.
Yes, thank you, delegates. And at this time, the chair recognizes delegate of South Korea to speak for the period of 7 minutes.
May I begin?
Yes.
Okay. As defined by the United Nations, climate change is a term to describe long-term changes in temperature and weather patterns. This one is situation resulting in countless detrimental effects, including hotter global surface temperature, severe storms, increased drought, increased harvests, etc. Although there were naturally made causes that led to the shift, yet South Korea believes that human activity have been the main root in this case. Regarding the South Korea, the Han River miracle, also known as Hangang, remarked the rapid transformation of the country from one of the poorest nation among the developed powers on earth. However, in research from the World Bank Group in 2013, although these impressive developments raised South Korean people's living standards, the heavy impact still lay intensity on the environment. For instance, in 2019, South Korea consumption base of CO2 emission per capita is reported at 12.65 trillion. It's even the world's 8th largest emitter of CO2, the highest indicator among the OECD countries. In the long run, these issues will not only leave wide-ranging detrimental impact on citizen life, but also heavily damage the nascent economy. Acknowledging the seriousness of how devastating the situation might be, the Republic of South Korea adopted certain remedies to urgently cope with these difficulties, mainly via incentivizing the peaceful coexistence between economic growth and environmental sustainability. Further stated that below. Number one, the Ministry of Education of South Korea will further proclaim the significance of decent education in the purpose of increasing public awareness towards climate change. Our nation leaders in the education sector will ensure that, first, widely implementing climate change education at schools. Although so far, South Korea's education on climate change has yet to be designated as a separate subject. But South Korea aims to let it be under the umbrella of environmental education. Furthermore, the Ministry of Education is also in charge of improving teacher training by integrating climate change and sustainable developments into teacher training courses. Secondly, in accordance with the ambitious goals implemented in the 5-year plan in 2009, the Republic of South Korea lays pressure on businesses to invest in renewable and environmentally friendly energy throughout their manufacturing process. In detail, as of 2008, South Korean President Lee Myung-bak put forward the nation's philosophy of low carbon, green growth, which highlighted that the governance of environmental concerns can be a driving force for the economic development. Therefore, South Korea believes that through orientalizing the producing practices towards providing more climate-friendly products, as well as encouraging businesses to be more plastic-free manufacturing, will eventually result in better future. Thirdly, Republic of South Korea urgently needs both domestic and international consensus on the cooperation to be more environmentally aware. With that being said, South Korea put forward more effort to harmonize the mutual effort generated by different stakeholders, including the institutional level policy, human factors, as well as the businesses and the private sector. Three of those interconnect each other. Thus, it is important that the government of South Korea finds a good balance to minimize the ineffectiveness, while at the same time leverage the highest benefit among them all. All in all, South Korea believes that actions towards climate change call for both national and global responses and necessitates consensus between all stakeholders. Therefore, South Korea proposed nation plans on acting towards climate-friendly policy. In detail, shifting the concentration from economic growth only to be more aware of environmental concerns. In conclusion, the Republic of South Korea advocates for a United Nations policy on number one, proclaim the significance of decent education in increasing public awareness toward climate change and its implication on Earth. Second, lay pressure on governments and business to invest in renewable and environmentally friendly energy, including solar, wind, wave, tidal, and geothermal power. Thirdly, orientalize the manufacturing practices toward providing more plastic-free and environmentally friendly products. And finally, we will urge the international consensus on the cooperation to reserve natural resources. That's the end from South Korea. Thank you.
Yes, thank you, delegate. And now it's time the chair recognizes delegate for Vietnam to speak for the period of 7 minutes.
May the delegate begin?
Yes.
Vietnam fully understands the importance of sustainability and the urgency that follows this issue. Briefly regarding the 3 pillars of sustainability, Vietnam is making strong progress in social aspects, but would like to focus on the environmental and economic conflict in today's discussion. Despite the ongoing expeditious measures Vietnam is taking to become more environmentally sustainable, it is important to note that Vietnam's trend in sustainability is more oriented on taking long-term, large-step measures to improve the current status quo in Vietnam. Vietnam, experiencing the impacts of the rapid but temporary economic growth at the forefront of this issue, has begun its meticulous examination toward the final goal of sustainability, especially in the environmental sector. Ranging from uncontrollable natural disasters and the subsequent social impacts following, to the decreasing domino effects of it, such as the decreasing GDP, agricultural drawbacks, and risks of the ecosystem, the fast-going trajectory is requiring burdensome maintenance for Vietnam to sustain. A measure that the country of Vietnam is currently putting forth regarding the internal issues being presented, especially in the sector of the economic and environmental pillars, are UN-provided trajectories to follow to reduce carbon emission. Vietnam has been trying to eliminate, or at the very least, solve some of the endlessly following accompaniments of this issue, in its position as one of the most carbon-intensive countries in Asia, unfavorably still ranking 4th in the Asian continent. As an attempt to ameliorate this current status, Vietnam has pledged to target zero carbon emission by the year 2050. The immense pressure on Vietnam as a country heavily relying on foreign investments from export-related industries will feasibly fuel Vietnam's newly embarked journey to become an environmentally sustainable nation. Especially in modern times, where having a carbon-neutral supply chain is of significant appeal to trade partners, incomparable to circumstances from only a few decades ago, it has become outstandingly important for all countries, not only Vietnam, to possess this asset or even merit of green production. Regarding the long-term goal Vietnam has set toward becoming more carbon neutral, it must be emphasized that despite the fact that this may not be the most immediate impact goal, it is a very pragmatic and attainable goal, taking into account that the key concept of the agenda is sustainability. And despite that Vietnam is relatively farther from achieving a carbon neutral status as an export-oriented country, the 2050 goal is rather realistic due to a country's geographical advantage in regards to their distinguished solar and wind energy production capacity. With their assets placed right, Vietnam has an immense potential to become one of the world's largest green energy sources. But another barrier that presents itself is that the Vietnamese only started industrialization a few days ago. As the other countries mentioned, cooperation will be the key to this solution. In comparison to MEDCs in the Western Hemisphere of the globe that have gone through industrial revolutions, Vietnam has only recently begun to recover from the after effects of the Vietnam War. The catastrophic delays of war have had a tremendous impact on Vietnam's economy and society, which heavily penalized Vietnam from progressing sustainably. Despite the constant effort Vietnam is putting into sustainable development, Carbon emissions are inevitably a factor that play an important role in economic advancement, which is why Vietnam is requiring the support of other MEDCs. Condemning Vietnam for following in the footsteps of all our developed countries that have gone through industrialization centuries ago would be arbitrary, to say the least. Therefore, assuming that Vietnam will be able to achieve heights of environmental advancement as fast as other developed countries would be slightly unreasonable and would be an overly exaggerated goal to reasonably accomplish in a time frame. However, this is not to say that sustainability is not a priority for Vietnam's national growth. Vietnam fully acknowledges the global good of working toward a united goal of sustainable development. But the focal point of communication between nations should be to tune minor disagreements to maintain a positive, constructive, and attainable goal for nations to achieve. Furthermore, through thorough understanding of other nations' positions in global matters, we will be able to achieve the core of concept of sustainable development with rational solutions and nations taking action in accordance with each country's individual, but also the encompassing benefits of the global community. Considering all of these factors is a highlighted necessity before implementing any policies regarding sustainability, and revision of goals will be of utmost importance throughout the progression of this major goal of sustainability. Vietnam shows full support to the contribution of this issue and looks forward to offering its full assistance for the global benefit of promoting sustainable development. Thank you.
Yes, thank you, delegates. It's time for speakers list for Mexico. Should go last, but due to disconnection of delegate of Mexico, we just move on to moderated caucus for 25 minutes. Based on speeches of speakers list, delegates ask questions during moderated caucus. Each team will have 5 minutes answering time for their speeches of speaker list, which was based on the subject of promotion of sustained economic growth and sustainable development. Started with Italy, all delegates may have the right to speak to Italy. All those delegates who wish to speak your questions or rebuttals in this moderated caucus, please raise your placards now. Yes, delegates of Vietnam, you have the floor.
To the delegate of Italy, what has Italy done to support its neighboring or other countries needing assistance in the achievement of sustainability?
Italy has been, first of all, as a developed nation, Italy was also taking part in the United Nations by providing funds, and Italy was also preparing for its own management of sustainable growth by, first of all, properly using the energy resources, also efficiently trying to discard the energy resources. However, Italy was also lacking the technical assistances to properly discard trash, so Italy was having its hard time in these aspects. And also in the aspects of supporting other countries, Italy is part of the European Union, so it was also mutually receiving and providing support among its countries. And also for the neighboring countries, Italy is also planning to provide countries like Vietnam and also other countries to support with technical, human, and also financial assistances if it is needed. So Italy is also looking forward to cooperating with the delegation of Vietnam to mutually receive and provide support if necessary. Thank you.
Yes, thank you, delegates. And all those wishing to speak, raise your placards now. Isn't there any questions or rebuttals to delegate of Italy? And I think it's time to move on. Next, we will move on to South Korea. All those delegates who wish to speak your questions or rebuttals in order to help us, please raise your placards now. To South Korea.
어린이와 노약자는 보호자가 찾고 애완동물과 놀아는 반드시 보호자가 안고 탑승해 주십시오. 에스컬레이터 계단을 오르내리거나 손잡이 밖으로 몸을 내미는 것은
Isn't there questions to South Korea? Yes. Delegates of Italy, you have the floor.
Thank you, Chair. So the delegation of Italy would like to ask simple questions to South Korea. South Korea talked about having public education and to raise awareness about climate change, but it would like to ask South Korea if what kinds of measures of education is the South Korea taking? So, for example, educating public schools or using these social media to raise awareness, and also if there is any kind of practical measures that South Korea is trying to implement on climate change.
Thank you, the delegate of Italy, for your question. And here is the answer from the South Korea. So regarding your question of how we implementing our like strategy towards the education sector to improve the public awareness towards climate change. So South Korea decided to aim for like 3 pillars of education sector that we want to focus on. Number one, we will educate and integrate the climate change, the climate and environmental education at school. And then we will have to shift the focus on the teacher training, which will like integrate the like teacher training courses with the education on the climate change, so that they will better deliver those knowledge to the students. And also, South Korea aim to collab with the organization like NGO and youth organization to better educate the public awareness toward this issue, especially how the detrimental that the bad climate could affect the South Korea. Thank you for your question.
Delegates, all those wishing to speak, raise your placards now. Yes, delegates of United States of America, you have the floor.
The United States of America would like to ask the delegates of South Korea about which areas in promoting sustainable development goals in South Korea need assistance from other countries.
Okay. So among the 4 strategies that the South Korea has stated above, the Republic of Korea believe that the international consensus between South Korea and other nations in the region of East Asia, as well as in the globe in general, will be some certain thing that we would like to call for the global assistance on that, because that there is many countless environmental issue that the South Korea can't do it alone. So we have to have the collaboration on a really large scale, even that across the globe, to together address this issue.
Is that enough for the United States? All those wishing to speak, raise your placards now. Yes, delegates of Vietnam, you have the floor.
The delegate of Vietnam would like to ask the United States about the current outsourcing situation. So in Vietnam, nearly 50% of the companies who outsource in Vietnam are US companies. So Vietnam would like to ask for US's opinion on that.
Oh, sorry, can you just repeat that one more time? Yeah, sorry.
Oh, sure. So currently in Vietnam, 50% of the companies who are supplying goods to the US from Vietnam are having their good production done in Vietnam. And this is a major contributing factor for Vietnam in terms of sustainability because these good productions are really contributing to carbon emissions. So that's what Vietnam would like to ask the US's opinion about.
Okay. First of all, thank you for your questions. So we think that regarding the outsourcing of um, U.S. companies in Vietnam, we think that this is first of all, the reason why we think that Vietnam is such a great place that U.S. companies have chosen Vietnam is because um, we think that Vietnam is a country with a young population, meaning that in this case, um, you guys have a lot of young people that have the potential to help not only your country, but we believe you guys, the youth in your country, also have the potential to help our country. So we think that um, we think that the outsourcing of U.S. companies in Vietnam is something that we would completely support that because not only does that benefit U.S. companies because we have the opportunity to outsource to different nations, we think that's also giving us an opportunity to see to understand about how Vietnam's economy is working. And yeah, I'm not sure if that answers your question.
Thank you, delegates. And since the time has exceeded, let's move on to the United States of America. All those delegates who wish to speak your questions or rebuttals in this moderate conference to United States, please raise your request now. Yes, delegates Ovidali, you have the floor.
Thank you, Chair. And this delegate would like to question the delegate of US. So the delegation of US had emphasized the importance of economic development, that if the country's only focus on sustainable developments and the environment, the economical aspect would not be improved. And so solving the environmental problems would be more challenging, right? However, if the economy is not sustainably developing at first, the environmental is going to be more detrimental and they will eventually need more money to spend, which makes a negative circulation of events. Therefore, this delegation would like to ask the delegation of United States if the delegation of United States is wanting to develop the economy in some way that would be capable, that will enable the countries to also solve the problem of environmental aspects. Is there any way to sustainably develop the problem of economical crisis, especially because it is in the COVID-19 era? And if there is a sustainable way to develop the economy, what kind of way the country is implementing, and also is there any practical ways that the countries would like to also share the guidelines to the other countries as?
Okay, thank you, the delegates of Italy, and I would like to answer the question. So, I think in modern times, renewable energy sources and cars, such as like electric cars or hydrogen cars, are also a very big part of economic development. As, for example, in the car market, it is like a trend for cars to use renewable energy sources. So if America invests, for example, on electric cars, then we will also be able to develop economically while selling electric cars to other countries, while reducing the amount of fossil fuels used in transportation to help develop, help maintain the environment clean. And one more example is like nuclear power plants. We invest billions of dollars every year to maintain nuclear power plants, which are considered a renewable energy source. And by doing this, we are also able to provide electricity in a cheap cost for everyone. So it helps the economy while also not using a non-renewable energy source such as fossil fuel to produce electricity. So I think these methods can be used to promote both the economy and the environment. I'm not sure if that answers your question, but yeah.
And delegates, all those wishing to speak, raise your flankers now. Okay. Delegates of South Korea, you have the floor.
The delegate of South Korea want to raise the question for the delegate of the United States. So the delegate South Korea aim to establish a youth organization which enhance the youth awareness toward climate change as well as other environmental issues that we're facing with. So South Korea aims to establish that organization with schedule for instance, the exchange program between US students and South Korean students, as well as some project that for the student working together to address the environmental issue. So the delegate of South Korea want to know the perspective of the United States on that plan and the collaboration. Thank you.
Okay, thank you, South Korea, for your question. And the United States is always more than willing to cooperate with other countries, especially for South Korea, because we have a very good relationship as great allies. And not only for South Korea, but also with other countries. Since the Sustainable Development Goals, we are aware that these SDGs require the collaboration and collective effort of all nations. And we also are aware that the youth plays an important role in these Sustainable Development Goals. We are more than willing to collaborate with South Korea to help provide education or also allow students to come and visit the United States, for example, to help them have like a more broader perspective and a more international perspective in order to implement great changes in not only the Republic of Korea, but also throughout the entire world.
Thank you.
Yeah. Yes, thank you, delegates. And all those wishing to speak, raise your flankers now. Yes, delegates of Italy, you have the floor.
Thank you. So the delegation of Italy would like to ask the delegation of the United States. So until 2021, the delegation of Italy has donated $42.5 billion to the official development assistance, making Italy one of the most generous and investing countries in the world. However, the United States is only using around 0.2% of its gross national income, which is a relatively small amount in a percentage, naturally being ranked sixth from the bottom among the donor countries of the OECD. What does the country of the United States think about it?
Oh, yes. Thank you, the delegates of Italy, for your question. And to answer, yes, we are aware that we donate we do not really donate a lot in the ODA, but we want to emphasize that the United States is continuously making donations to other organizations and other funds, and also to promote SDGs around the world. For example, President Biden announced that in the past few months, I think it was like last month, President Biden announced that Global Fund, which is a fund collected by all international organizations and by all countries around the world to help treat like diseases such as AIDS or COVID or MERS. United States decided to donate every $1 for every $2 connected from all over the globe. And for example, if all countries around the world collected $2 billion, the United States alone is willing to donate $1 billion to the Global Fund to help achieve global health. And also, I would like to emphasize that as we donate a lot to the UN peacekeeping force and also currently to Ukraine, we would like to focus on these things for now, and then we are more than willing to donate even to the ODA for sustainable development.
Yes, thank you, delegates. Since the time has exceeded, let's move on to the Vietnam. All those delegates who wish to speak your questions or rebuttals in this moderated conference, please raise your flankers now. Yes, delegates of Italy, you have the floor.
Thank you, Chair. So the delegate of Italy would like to ask the delegation of Vietnam, especially because Vietnam said that although Vietnam is taking efforts in both economic development and also sustainable growth regarding the environment, Vietnam said that because of the lack of budget compared to other countries, Vietnam said that it required help from other countries to comply to the same standards. So the delegation of Italy would like to ask the delegation of Vietnam if among the different kinds of resources that a country may require in order to establish a sustainable development system, what kind of help regarding the help of finance, human, or technological resources is the Vietnam most needing in the status quo in order to comply to the same standards?
Firstly, to clarify Vietnam's statements about assistance earlier. Firstly, the biggest issue that Vietnam faces currently is that due to the Vietnam War, there has been a lot of detrimental effects on both societal, environmental, and economic pillars of the country. And therefore, by assistance, Vietnam mostly meant that it was unreasonable to be placed in the same standards as MEDC, such as Italy or the United States, especially because we have just begun to recover from this massive state of economic destruction. And therefore, rather than specific assistance needed from other countries, Vietnam meant it more as in a sort of statement to inform other countries about Vietnam's status quo.
Yes, thank you, delegates. And for those wishing to speak, raise your placards now. Yes, delegates of South Korea, you have the floor.
The delegate of South Korea want to raise the question for the delegate of Vietnam. So as you stated, Vietnam is suffered from the Vietnam War and heavily impacted on that, and now the country is recovering from the economic disruption. So the delegate of South Korea want to ask that what Vietnam want to focus most regarding the environmental issue that the country are facing with.
Currently, the largest issue that Vietnam is facing is the carbon emissions. So, for example, unfavorably, Vietnam is currently ranking 4th in carbon emissions in the most carbon intensive countries in Asia, which we are working to solve. However, this is very difficult. So first of all, in Vietnam, because Vietnam is a relatively less developed country compared to large superpowers around the world, it has often been a location of outsourcing. For example, as the delegate of Vietnam mentioned to the United States earlier. So many countries have their goods supplied in Vietnam, which leads to an incredible increase in carbon emissions, which is one of the most contributing factors to why Vietnam is still ranking 4th, despite that Vietnam is quite a sustainable country in general. And therefore, and also that in Vietnam, due to the lack of economic supplies, for instance, it's difficult to transition from fossil fuels and other non-renewable energy sources to a completely green and sustainable energy in the period of a decade per se. I hope that answered your question.
Thank you, the delegate of Vietnam.
Thank you, delegates. And all those wishing to speak, raise your flag cards now.
Okay, although we couldn't hear you, thank you, Chair. Okay, and the United States of America would like to ask Vietnam, as United States really likes making allies and achieving partnership in order to achieve the Sustainable Development Goals. We would like to ask Vietnam which kind of partnership in, like, for example, which sector would be most beneficial for Vietnam, or what Vietnam wants the most. Yeah. Which partnership with the United States would Vietnam be able to benefit from the most?
Is the United States asking for specific support they could provide?
Yes, which type of support the Vietnam would like the most?
Well, currently, first of all, reducing the carbon emissions is a prime goal for Vietnam at the moment. So therefore, for example, power plants. So energy supply would also be a form of support that could be done. Also, economically, not to say that Vietnam is unable to sustain itself, but there could be betterments made to the economy that possibly could be achieved by partnerships with other countries, perhaps the US.
Thank you for your answer.
Yes, thank you, delegates. I think since the time has exceeded, let's move on. And due to delegates of Mexico was disconnected, we can have 5 more additional minutes for moderated purpose for free question time. All delegates can ask anyone for 5 minutes. All those wishing to speak, raise your placards now. This is additional time for anyone to ask any questions to any delegates. All those wishing to speak, raise your placards now. Yes, and yes, delegates of South Korea, you have the floor.
The South Korea want to raise question for this delegate of Vietnam. So, like recently, the relation between South Korea and Vietnam, especially in the tourism sectors, have been improving a lot. So, the South Korea want to ask Vietnam about any perspective of you. Like we have stated with the United States before, we want to like improve the relation with other countries. So we want to invest in the education sector. So we want to ask Vietnam, what group of people you want to focus most when we organize that kind of collaboration.
Well, Vietnam has maintained a good relationship with other socialist countries such as China. Vietnam is very willing to branch out into other democratic societies such as the US or South Korea.
That was enough for South Korea.
Perhaps. Thank you, Vietnam.
Yeah, thank you, delegates. All those wishing to speak, raise your placards now. Yes, delegates of Italy, you have the floor.
Thank you, Chair. And this delegate would like to ask the delegate of Vietnam again, and to also kind of end the previous question. So what this delegate meant was that the delegation of Vietnam does not necessarily have to comply to the same standards as the other MEDCs, since Vietnam is starting from a different place, and this delegate understands that the lack of resources may be more harder for the delegation of Vietnam. So this delegation was actually asking the delegation of Vietnam if there was any way that the country of Italy can support the country of Vietnam, for example, in the aspects of finance, human and technological assistances. So what kinds of assistances does the delegation of Vietnam need the most, and in what kinds of ways is Italy capable of supporting Vietnam in that kind of?
First of all, apologies for the misunderstanding earlier. I hope that cleared things up. So first of all, Vietnam is a very heavily dependent on and exports, which means that trade, such as like foreign affairs, is an important part of Vietnam's kind of economic profits. Therefore, Vietnam is not the most active trader with Italy at the moment, but Vietnam believes that Italy is a great potential candidate for other exports. I hope that answered your question.
Yes, thank you, delegates. And all those wishing to speak, raise your placards now. That's enough. And thank you, all delegates. The time for this moderated caucus has elapsed. And next, we will have a time for declaration paperwork for 15 minutes. Before we move on to the declaration paperwork, when you write down the paper based on your speech, think about the agenda on SDGs conference and make sure that it is not only in the good of the country you represent, but also in the good of the world as a global citizen. Those who are assigned for the sustainable development part will stay here, and now we will make breakout rooms for 15 minutes to make a declaration paper, and room members will be randomly assigned. Now you guys can move on to the breakout rooms.
Yes, you three are staying here for the sustainable development, and I have just shared the Google document link on the chat. You can use the link, and when you scroll down, there is a part for you for sustainable development, and there is a must include details and can include details. So you guys can have a discussion and write your part below. Pre-discuss.
So is this like a resolution that we are supposed to create?
Yeah, kind of. And there it's divided to two parts. One is for the economic growth, and three other students will be writing on the economic growth, and you are going to cover the sustainable development. So how can each nation can maybe partner or collaborate for the worldwide sustainable development?
Okay, thank you.
So I think we should begin with the must include first. There are two questions on the must include. Let's begin with the first one. What must be preceded to enhance sustainable development on Earth?
So firstly, we would need to identify the issues, which currently would be like there's really a lot of factors that come into play. So that could be like SDG 13, 14, life on land, life in sea. Or it could be like carbon emissions, greenhouse gases, plastic pollutions, really anything. So what do you think?
So I think that's for when you look at the examples like number 10, 11, 12, 13, 14, those things I think are more focused on the like specific goals. Like for example, number 10 in the example is like education and gender equality, like reducing inequality. But I think we should begin with number 9, which is more like a general thing in achieving the all 17 SDG goals.
Right.
Mhm.
Okay, so I agree. We should definitely start with SDG 9. No, I'm sorry, not SDG. Clause 9.
So I think the keyword is in number 9 is increasing awareness of work. And what do you think we should do? Like they focused on raising awareness. Maybe we can choose things like cooperation of individuals and also countries, or like putting differences aside, or those things I think can be.
Right, so that would be the answer to the second question on the must includes.
Yeah. Okay.
Okay, so what should we add to the first one?
When you look at number 9, they kind of did specify, like also, so they wrote 3 things: accomplishments of 17 sustainable goals, and they kind of specified what part they have to raise awareness. They said corresponding targets and commitments set forth in the Gyeongju Youth Declaration. So maybe we should specify a little bit. Individuals collectively work toward the achievement of sustainable development.
Um,
What if we say both domestically and internationally?
yeah, sure.
Okay. Move on. Active global citizens.
Okay, so I guess that would be kind of determining what like a nation or like a region needs and then educating people.
Yeah. Now we'll have to move to the specifics, I think. Like, for example, yeah, as I mentioned earlier, I think they chose like a goal in SDG or a set of goals in SDG per number and provided like, yeah, methods to collaborate and achieve these goals. What goals would you like to begin with?
So I think the general in the example is collaboration and then kind of collaboration, inclusion, and then also collaboration, contribute, taking responsibility, educate. Okay, so I think those are the like four like keywords of this. So connecting to our first thing, maybe we could focus on collaboration first.
So goal 17. Okay. Collaboration.
Between, I can't figure.
Then we can take SDG 17 into consideration, which is partnership for the goals. Then we can need collaboration between, I think we can go with what you said, emphasizes the need for collaboration between also groups of people, but also between the SDG goals, 17 SDG goals, maybe. I'm not really sure where this is going.
Me neither. I don't how to do this.
Oh.
This is like a weird position paper.
Oh, she left.
Oh.
Okay. Yeah. And then when you look at number 11, they focused on SDG number 12, which is responsible consumption. Is it time that climate things came out, or?
Yeah, I think so.
How should then nations collaborate to achieve, reduce climate change?
Are we talking second missing or
No, third one. When you look at number 11 of the example, it mentions responsible consumption activities.
right?
Yeah, which is related to climate or yeah, just consumption. Yeah, so I think each number has like a specific target in mind, like goal in mind. For example, number 10 is like as it says poverty and then and reducing inequality. And then number 11 was about consumption activities. Number 12 was about human rights. And then number 13 was yeah, this is like improvement international bodies. So this can be partnership.
17.
So I think we should also write each number with a specific goal, SDG goal in mind.
Okay, I think you're right, but also, like for example, in the 10th thing, like in number 10, it says, for example, it says there's poverty, but there's also gender equality, and then there's like leadership, so that would be like collaboration. So I'm feeling this is kind of a mix and jumble of a bunch of things.
다 섞어놨어. 짬뽕이네. Okay, then. So I think it is possible to mix things up, but we should also choose the things we're gonna mix. 섞을 걸 찾아야지. Okay. So from number 2, we wrote about partnership. So that's number 17. And then what would you like to mention next on number 3? Oh,
That would be number 11.
number 11. Sustainable cities and communities. Yeah, great. And I think we should, yeah. It's gonna get longer. Number 11, sustainable cities and communities. So our big idea is on number 1. So nations should collectively work. So I think we should answer how nations should collectively work to achieve sustainable cities and communities.
Yeah.
How? Any idea?
So, it would be like
May I just like get some water real quick?
sure. Okay, I'm sorry. What did you say for number 3?
Okay, so you chose number 11, was it?
Yes. Mm-hmm.
So number 11 is sustainable cities and communities.
Mm-hmm.
But I think you wrote about responsible consumption and production, so it's okay to go with that. So how should nations achieve partnership in responsible consumption and production?
Okay, I'm sorry. What did you say for? Okay, that's a really weird echo, but okay.
Yeah. Oh, how can collaboration help in responsible consumption and production?
I mean, isn't it more of an internal issue?
Then we can do collaboration among individuals because we also did.
Okay.
Then, or we can also include groups. So,
Mhm.
like for example, like companies can also.
Mm.
So
Actually,
if it's a more internal issue, then how can we achieve this internally with collaboration?
um, like you could encourage the state to monitor the progress. I don't know.
Then like, check and balance with each other among groups and also by the government.
True. Yeah. Actually, let's just make a list of all the things that we need to write down.
Sure.
So,
Okay, then we have
okay, so for the both developed countries and developing countries, maybe we could talk about kind of like financial aid or something.
mm, okay, then we can write. 3 more minutes.
Okay. Wait, so what is this going to be used for?
Not really sure though.
So like for draft resolutions? Or is this the resolution?
I think this is the resolution.
Okay.
Oh, sorry. But research is important. Choose groups and initiative.
here. This was the end of paperwork. Next, we will have SDGs declaration. First, Judy, delegate of South Korea, please declare the part of background first.
Okay. Dear Church and fellow delegates, I am Judy, delegate of South Korea, and I will deliver the background of the SDG Declaration. Maintaining a good balance between economic development and environmental sustainability is undeniably one of the key to ensuring decent jobs and reducing the number of marginalized people suffering from the consequences by environmental constraints. Therefore, incentivizing the structural transformation towards a productive economy that incorporates eco-friendly policies will not only enhance the citizen living standards, but will also be a driving force for a more robust economy. In particular, it is urgent to ensure both concentration on the pillars of economics and environmental focus to satisfy the needs of the human factors while also sustaining the state's natural resources and in turn reserving the assets for the nation future generation. Furthermore, at the institutional level, strategic orientation towards decontaminating the economy laid by the state government will well equip the society to be more adapted to the challenges rooted in the poor environmental status. Also, youth is one of the most significant candidates in the current society that has the potential of influencing the global society into a better place. Youth, with its all voices and undeniable neutrality when it comes to prejudice, it's capable of demanding for change or even making practical changes by itself. The war is the brink between economic growth and sustainable developments, and focusing on single aspect would only lead to detrimental effects, as alternative technology and financial profits are in deep interrelation. Under multilateral cooperation, global leaders should search for a way to mutually provide and receive support among countries and to strive for a stable, balanced progress, not limited to certain parts of the SDGs or the single country development, but referring to all of the 17 sustainable goals and a harmonious step-by-step progress of the entire world. As the next generation of leaders, the youth is now more empowered than ever to raise a voice that can be small but can ripple into millions of other voices.
Yes, thanks, Judy. And Alice, delegates of Italy, please declare the rest part of background.
Okay. So the given agenda in this sense is worth discussion, for without a proper discussion, the separation of countries will continue, disturbing a unified partnership towards the common goals of the United States has set. Although multilateral compliance to a set goal is significant than ever, it cannot be achieved if the respective stances and situations of the countries are not considered, and thus brings the importance of proper communication and the willingness to take part in it. In this case, as the youth is engaged in this conference and finding a way to solve the problems in the eyes of a country leader, the youth is thus empowered to know what it is like to take a step in negotiation, cooperation, and discovery of practical solutions, further enhancing its step as future leaders.
Yes, thank you, delegates. And next, consort delegates of Italy, please declare the part of global economy first.
Okay. For global economic growth, we pledge to commit our abilities, hearts, and efforts to first raise awareness for the youth in each country through education so that they understand the significance of economic growth both locally and globally. They will also know they contribute to it in the future. Second, visit LDCs and poor areas in order to understand what they need help us and support them in improving situation. Third, form partnership and encourage collaboration between developed and developing countries through helping one another with balancing global economic growth. Fourth, investment in the local infrastructure and transforming the key system of energy, transport, industry, cities, and land. Fifth, support systems, technologies, information, knowledge, and skills for inclusive social development. 6, increase public sector partnerships for institutional change, sharing standards and policy strategies to help those affected by economic losses and forced dislocation.
Yes,
7,
thanks. And we will move on to my delegation of United States of America. Please declare the rest part of global economy.
Okay. 7, create private sector partnerships within nation groups and share the responsibility for intergenerational partnerships. 8, encourage donations from developed countries to developing countries to build reliable channels for large-scale finance and reach international financial collaboration. 9, invest in research and development, social and scientific, to support the works of people involved in crafting public policies and programs. 10, support all campaigns, projects, and actions from each individual or organization that contributes toward global economic growth. 11, pass legislation in all scales that are in adherence to the achievement of the SDGs.
Yes, thank you, delegates of global economy. And Erin, delegates of Vietnam, please declare the part of sustainable development.
We pledge to commit our abilities, efforts, and heart to 1. Call upon individuals, groups, and nations to collectively work toward the achievement of sustainable development both domestically and internationally. 2. Emphasizes the need for collaborations for the SDG goals, especially the 17th SDG regarding the partnership for the goals and taking into consideration its impact on the other SDGs. 3. Supports nations in maintaining reasonable resource consumption rates and closely monitoring the accordance of indicators. 4. Recommends nations to provide national and international education, including contents about the 17 goals to raise awareness while reducing illiteracy rates. 5. Encourages nations to ensure decent work leading to the economic growth of a country, especially for marginalized or dismissed social groups. 6.
Yes, thank you for Eric. And next, Ina, delegates, please declare the part of sustainable development to number
10. Number 6, call upon developed countries to continually provide financial aids in various areas to help promote sustainability in developing and underdeveloped countries. 7, declares the need for nations to expand and create sectors to provide public services in health, education, and reduced hunger. 8, educate LDCs on the impacts of climate change and other affecting environmental factors that can negatively impact their lives. Number 9, economic goals can be integrated with SDG goals because one way to save money is to educate people on how to save their resources and efficiently use them. For example, saving water, less power consumption, less food waste, reduce, reuse, and recycle. 10, promote the reduction of inequalities not only in developing and underdeveloped countries, but also in developed powerhouses with the highest forms of inequality, racism, prejudice, and sexism.
Yes, thank you. And for the last, Janu, delegates of the United States of America, can you please declare the rest part of sustainable development?
Number 11, achieve partnership and conduct joint research in order to develop an alternative, renewable energy source that can be publicized. 12, suggests United Nations officials to invite leaders from developed, developing, and underdeveloped countries to create a special group about implementing SDGs into their nation system. Number 13, directs international organizations to maintain a firm position in anti-violence in order to promote peace by acting as a deterrent to armed conflicts. Number 14, encourage a few LDCs to focus on their economy because they are impoverished. Their biggest priority is to gain sufficient funds to help their nation combat hunger and poverty. Number 15, encourage international leaders to look at policies that matter to their nation most. And last, number 16, encourage national programs to eradicate poverty, inequality, racism, cyberbullying, bullying, sexism, and etc., especially among the youth of the nation.
Yes, thank you, young delegate of the United States of America. And thank you for all delegates. It was great declaration for UN SDGs. It is the end of the SDGs conference. And now we will move into the simulation, SDG simulation with Anna. And I hope it was an opportunity for students to grow one further. This was Dennis, a moderator of SDGs conference. And thank you for your attention.
Yes, thank you all for joining the conference. And I hope the discussion was very smooth and all did participate very much. And this is a very quick and simple simulation. And we are giving the budgets to each nation, and you're going to divide and utilize your own budget to either sustainable development or climate strategies. And then after dividing all your budgets, we'll now discuss on how and to whom your nation would like to support the other nation. So I would like to begin with Italy. So the delegates of Italy, how much would you like to utilize 80 for social development and climate strategies?
Thank you, Chair. And this delegate would like to either divide in half and half or utilize it by 50 and 30 for each part if being flexible is permitted. So in different economic and climate crisis, if there is a certain variable that affects the economy or the environment of Italy in a negative way, then Italy is willing to divide it also by 50 and 30. However, in the status quo, 40 and 40, and in this case, because Italy is a country with sustainable economic growth and also it is one of the developing countries. However, its financial status is not the world's highest. And if we see the GDP or any of such rankings, Italy is actually below many other countries. However, it is still in the developing countries side. Therefore, this delegate believes that Italy also needs to use its budgets in social development as well as its economic developments. However, Italy's climate strategies is also significant as a developed country. Italy also emits a significant amount of waste, and also although Italy is successful at efficiently using its resources, it is not very successful at discarding its waste, as aforementioned. Therefore, Italy believes that it also needs to use the budget and climate strategies, and also is calling for help for any guidelines or technical assistance from other countries if that is the case. Therefore, economic growth will be successful. Italy will be able to take part in climate resilience as well as maintain political power and to build their reputation between its own citizens and the citizens from other countries, as it is both regarding the suitable parts of climate resilience and its own economic development. Thank you.
Okay, thank you. And Mexico, how would you like to utilize your budget? Oh, we don't have. Maybe Summer? Can you take the part of Lucas? How would you like to utilize the fund?
So I have 40, right?
Yes.
Because Mexico is near United States, and United States is like a power economy. But at the same time, many hubs, manufacturing hubs and other places also exist in United States. They're basically dependent in tourism with the Americans and other neighboring countries. And at the same time, this phenomena puts their development at risk. Not at risk, but like it puts them in a lower level because some people because the policies created they're usually more how do I say it? Inviting for investors and other people. But so in line with that, I would like to give my budget equally to social development and climate strategies because I think that
Mexico needs it, especially at this moment. So I'd give 20 to social development and 20 to climate strategies.
Okay. Then let's move on to South Korea.
The judges and fellow committee, the Republic of Korea, want to divide 40 for the social development and 60 for the climate strategies. And here's our explanation towards that decision. So first of all, like South Korea, in the recent index regarding the HDI and GDP, we consider the economically stable enough, and we want to shift the focus on environmental pillars, which we believe that there's a close interconnection between the environment as well as the economic. So we would like to raise our voice towards that the stable, investing in long-term sustainability will be long of benefit not only our generation but also the future generation of South Korea young people. So that's the answer from the South Korea.
Okay, thank you. And then we're moving to USA.
The United States would like to invest 70 for social development and 80 for climate strategies. The reason why is because we believe that the United States is already a fairly developed country in terms of social development. We believe that our country, being one of the most powerful countries in the world, we already have made a lot of different growth and development over the years, and we believe that therefore we have decided to give a little less focus on social development and focus more on climate strategies instead, as we see that there's still a lot of things that we need to solve in terms of that, as we can see with the different natural disasters happening in the United States nowadays.
Okay, a little less. Okay, then how would you like to utilize your funds, Vietnam?
We would like to split it 20-10.
Okay.
So first of all, social development is kind of crucial for Vietnam right now, especially with its ongoing economic issues. But climate strategies is also very important. And because Vietnam doesn't really have much to utilize in the first place, this would probably be the best option that we have to offer.
Yes, but actually this was the yeah. And regarding the simulations, and we have the own goods and global goods at the end. So we have a lot of criteria for the goods here. So let's now move on from Italy, how to utilize your funds for another country. So maybe for Italy, you can use one of the part of your funds for maybe Vietnam's social development. Or you can take one of the parts of climate strategies to the Vietnam's climate strategies. Feel free to utilize your funds for another country.
So in this case, if Italy is supposed to use some of the funds to a different country, this delegate believes that Italy will most likely use its funds to the delegation of Vietnam, especially because the delegation of Vietnam in the status quo does not have enough budget to spend in the climate strategy, which the delegation of Italy perfectly understands. However, in order to incorporate a global cooperation and the usage of a sufficient amount of funds in order to take part in the climate strategies, this delegate believes that Vietnam should receive some of the funds that is needed in order to invest in the climate strategies. And in this case, Italy could be providing Vietnam with some of its funds on the climate strategies. Not only with funds, Italy might also help Vietnam with technical and human assistances, but this is something else to talk about. So right now, if the delegation only have to stick to the funds, to just make a short conclusion, Italy would like to give some of its funds for climate strategies to the delegation of Vietnam.
And then how much?
This delegate is thinking about 10 to 15 because Italy also, unlike other developed countries, does not have much of a fund because other countries have like they are like over 100, but Italy is also less than 100. And if it is divided equally among its social and climate strategies, it is 40 and 40. Therefore, in Italy's funds is not also that rich. However, if 10 or 15 to the budget of 40 is also a significant part, and if 10 or 15 of its fund is provided to Vietnam, and if other developed countries are also providing its fund to Vietnam, this delegation believes that a global framework of cooperation will be likely to be incorporated. So if Italy is able to be more flexible on its funds, then Italy is also willing to provide Vietnam with an additional 5 of its funds. Yeah, thank you.
Okay, so we'll now stick to 10, giving 10 to Vietnam's climate strategies, and then we'll move on to Mexico, South Korea, and USA, who have a lot of funds. So for Mexico, how would you utilize? Or do you want to stick to it?
Because I'm just a few, because Mexico's just a few, but like a few, I don't know how to say amounts ahead, like, so at this point, Mexico would like to stick to its budget, since Vietnam, the one that has a lower budget than Mexico, is already at the we already have the equal footing, so I don't think I could give anything to anyone at this moment.
Okay. So South Korea, how would you use your funds?
So first of all, the delegate of South Korea want to spend like 10 of the budget for enhancing the public relationship with the United States as well as the Vietnam, as we stated in the moderated caucus. So we will use that budget to like enhancing the cooperation between the young generation of both countries to raise awareness toward the climate-friendly actions of the future generation of between South Korea and Vietnam as well as American students. Also, we will spend 10 of the budget to support the Vietnam in the climate resilience, because it seems that the Vietnam will have the really small budget to take care of its climate strategy. So we believe that that the spend of like will help the Vietnam in dealing with its environmentally constraints.
Okay, so you're taking one from the social development or climate strategy. We are not using this one.
We'll take like both decrease by 10.
Both 10.
Yep.
And you're giving here all 20?
I will give in 10 to the public relationship and then 10 for the climate resilience.
Okay. Okay, then how would you, the US, utilize your funds?
As the most wealthy country among the nations, we would like to invest 30 in Vietnam's social development.
Okay, where do we take out?
From our social development.
Okay, 30.
30.
To 30.
Because as we mentioned in the speakers list and also the opening speech, we believe in the importance of social development, and also we also believe that the social development can also help solving climate issues. We believe that we are more than willing to invest a lot of money in Vietnam, who is not really socially developed.
Okay, so we're taking a look at the global good. We're coming closer to the average, but we're missing Mexico. Who would you like, maybe from South Korea or the United States? Who would want to provide the funds to Mexico? To which part of the Mexico's development field? South Korea? Would you like to use your funds for Mexico?
Yes.
And
I'm sorry.
sorry, can yeah.
Is it the one
can
like
say.
supposed to talk?
Mm-hmm.
Sorry to interrupt.
Judy, go ahead.
Okay, so the South Korea, as we can see that we have like still the like quite large budget in the climate strategy. So as for Mexico, we would like to provide like funding for Mexico with aid, aid from our budget of climate strategy to support the Mexico to address with the climate issue.
Climate issue. Okay. And then Yanu, maybe you can go next.
Yes. The United States is willing to invest 20 from our climate because
Mhm.
if we invest 20 from our social development, then we'll be like very poor. We are willing to give 20 to Mexico in its social development.
You're not poor. So we are coming closer. But you're not poor. I think you should give more for Mexico. Give more.
Let me discuss with my one moment.
Okay. I know this is not an ideal simulation because we have not covered the human resources, education, or political relations or anything. We are just covering the funds by cash, and we're donating or investing to only the economic growth or the climate strategies. So it's not an ideal part, but maybe I think the United States should invest more for the other countries at the moment.
Show that we believe that social development and climate strategies is equally important. We would like to invest 20 more from our climate strategies to Mexico.
Mexico social development?
Yeah.
Okay.
Oh, my wallet is crying.
So yeah, we came closer. So yeah, I think the United States have like invested like half of their funds for the other countries. And I would like to now open the details from here. So I tried to cover other things. And for the economic growth, we had the social development. And for the climate resilience, we had climate strategies. And the political power, we had the public relationships. And why does it, how does the public relationships terms come from? Is it how much they give out or donate for the global goods. And then for the US, your public relationship score is very high, thankfully. And yeah, you are coming closer to the global good thanks to the US. And maybe, yeah, this could happen from maybe somewhere else. Yeah, this is very brief and fun simulations for the SDGs to cover the agendas that we have covered during the conference. This is very quick, and I would like to now move on to the very last part for today. Okay, we're now having the closing ceremony for you all. But I think my internet is not stable. Yes, the highlight has come, and it's time for giving you the certificates to the honorable graduates. Always remember, you have within your strength, the patience, and the passion to reach for your greatest dream. At this time, I have the distinct pleasure of recognizing the 8 students of our graduates. So for Alice, Toyunna, Certificate of Completion for 2022 Vulture Training Program on UN SDGs for successfully completing with an outstanding effort in the 2022 Virtual Training Program on SDGs, organized by Hope to the Future Association, the civil society representative associate with the United Nations Department of Global Communications, November 6, 2022. And it's now coming to Unsal. The certificate of completion is given to Unsar Jo. And now we're moving to Judy. The certificate of completion is given to Tam Jianin, Judy. And we're moving to certificate of completion given to Mai Nguyen. And then we're missing Lucas at the moment, but it's given to Nguyen Chaojiang also. And now certificate of completion to Gyumin Kim Erin. And you're moving to Yaonu Cho, the certificate of completion. And last but not least, we're inviting Ina Buishan to the stage. And yeah, thank you all, the 8 and 7 students for joining us for the past weeks. And this is a short recap. Please all remember the journeys that we had together from the beginning to the end. And I hope the times were amazing opportunity to see what opportunities are out there in the world and how you can make a difference in between various fields, covering the public diplomacy, the climate resilience, or maybe food security, or anything else that should be covered during the conference. And yeah, this is the end of the program. And this congratulates your 2 weeks journey for the 2022 Vulture Program on the United Nations SDGs. And thank you indeed to all those who have joined us through YouTube as well. And the live stream is now over. But students, please remain, stay here. And I would like to convey more important notes, including our assignments, to you next week. And thank you all for joining through YouTube.